Alright, this is part 2, and today we're going to be continuing off of the rejection block, okay? So, boom. We find, if you guys didn't watch the other video, please do, okay? So, we find our rejection block that we're going to use, right? I'm going to use this one for example, like the last video. Why is this a good rejection block, and why it's good, and why do we have the opportunity to trade it, okay? Well, we sweep liquidity, wick liquidity, right? We wick it and we come back, no body closure, right? So we establish step 1, make sure it sweeps liquidity, most definitely the previous candle or significant lows or highs, right? So significant liquidity would be this low, this low, this low, right? And vice versa, okay? And after we establish that sweeps liquidity, we can make sure that it taps into a PD array, right? So it taps into this fair value gap, and we reject up off the fair value gap, and we trade back into the zone, right? So if I can just, let me just do this real quick, just to see if it taps into OTE. Oh shoot, I did it wrong. Sorry. OTE of the retrace. And it also tapped into an OTE, right? But I'll explain that next time, okay? So after we established what rejection block we're going to use, we're going to make it valid so that we have even better opportunity to trade it, right? So I want you to mark out the fib of it, right? If it's coming from the downside, you want to go bottom to top, and it's coming from the upside like this, you want to go top to bottom. Okay, so now we established, okay, let me write this down. Establish rejection block opportunity. The opportunity is a very important word that we're going to use in this strategy, because not all the time it's going to work, right? So then we establish it. Now we are going to wait for it to make liquidity above the 50 or OTE. So make or produce liquidity above the 0.5 or 0.618. And I'll get more in depth into this, and I'll be explaining this, right? And this is just based off of what I've noticed in the market. So let's get into it. There are 2 conditions that you will use, and this is why I have my fib settings or colors like this, okay? So listen to, if price engineers or produces liquidity above this 50% zone, right? So we make liquidity above this 50% zone, right? We have a good opportunity of trading it because we have liquidity to sweep inside of the rejection block so that it can tap into OTE and shoot up, okay? So we form liquidity right here, right? Let me get my pen out. Right here. It's above what? The 50% zone, right? And so we look at the next candle. We see, oh, it tapped into the 50% zone, but it didn't tap into our actual OTE, right? So hopefully you guys can guess by the colors about what how I'm gonna explain this. But if we engineer or produce liquidity within the range above the 50%, and then we finally hit our OTE, we can assume that this right here, this 0.706, is the level we could use. Alright, so let me try to write this down so that you guys can get a visual. If we produce liquidity on 50 CE level, like here, like this, how this, we use the 0.618 and 0.79 as our key interest levels. Okay. So bang, we see that this right here, this one probability, there are two probabilities, right? Before we hit OTE, okay? So we form liquidity right here, great. We form liquidity on the 50 CE, still great, right? But we have to take a different approach just by changing our key level of interest off what we're going to enter off of. So again, hopefully you guys understand, because I don't understand how I would explain this better. But if we form liquidity on the 50 CE and we don't tap into OTE, then we use the 0.618 and the 0.79, okay? And what do? Exactly? Well, we actually do it. We come down, form liquidity on the 50 CE, and we reject off it. Now we retrace into what? One of these key levels, 0.79 or 0.618. You can still use this, but these are better ranges, price levels to use. So boom, you would enter off there. 10-point stop, targeting 50 points or 40 points. And boom, you absolutely crush it. And if you look on the 1 minute, right, you quite literally bottom ticked the hell out of it. As you can see, look at this. Right. So I'll try. Now let's try to find the other probability. Right. I think it was right here. It was right here. Let me log out so I can get out of this. So we use gap fills to identify, right? So we have a gap fill right here, this new day opening gap. What does price do? We gap fill it. So now we can have the opportunity to trade this rejection block. Right? Why? Because we sweep this liquidity and probably some 15-minute liquidity here. I think I entered off the 15. It's better structure. Yeah, I think this is better. Actually, 15 minutes is a better example because we have a certain gap fill. Okay, here is our gap fill. We have this inverse fair value gap right here, and we also have this gap. New week, new day opening gap. Okay. And I mean, the bias was wrong. I should have been bearish targeting this, but it still worked out for me, as you can see. So let's get to it. This sweeps liquidity and gap fills, so I have a certain opportunity and I have confidence that we can trade this, okay? And oh dang it, it formed liquidity right there. But say it didn't right here, right? Say it formed above. Okay. Before we tapped into OTE, we only formed liquidity above the 50%. So what am I gonna use? What level? I'm gonna use the 0.76. Okay. Enter on the 0.76. Maybe even the 3-point stop with the 1 or 10-point stop, and you ride it up to 40 points. Yes, this is kind of early, but you know, it's summer right now, so you get the most bang because you can stay up, do whatever you want. But yeah, form liquidity above 50 CE before we tap into OTE. So here's what I want you to write down. I want you to write down this, right? If produce liquidity above the 50 CE before hitting OTE, optimal entry, then we use 0.706, right? Yeah, 0.706. And let me just 706, and let me just rewrite this on the 50 cent before hitting OTE. You use 0.618 or 0.79. So bam. Write this down. Alright, this is a gem that I've noticed. Fuck. Write this down. And yeah, that's just how we can make sure the rejection block is good to trade. If we form liquidity inside the zone, that's the sum up. If we form liquidity inside the zone, we have a good opportunity, or better opportunity. Frick, there's so many ants. Better opportunity to trade it. So yeah, make sure to write this down. Look at the market, back test it, do whatever you want. I'll see you guys in the next part.